Some nights on I-40, you feel like you're the only living soul on the planet. The highway stretches out empty and dark for miles. Nothing but your headlights cutting through the blackness. Your engine, the only sound besides the occasional semi-rumbling past. Those are the peaceful nights. The ones where you actually have time to think, to breathe, to remember why you became a cop in the first place. And December 28, 2023 was not one of those nights. NNMY name is Mark Hawkins, Arkansas State Trooper, badge number 7, Charlie 39, and I've been patrolling this 285-mile stretch of I-40 for 23 years. NNIF. You're watching this because you want to know what really happens on America's highways when federal agents get involved. Hit that subscribe because what I'm about to tell you goes deeper than anything I've shared before. You already know about my black notebook, the one where I write what really happens versus what goes in the official reports. If you watched my previous confessions, you know the game. Federal agents, disappearing suspects, falsified reports. The system protecting criminals while I'm ordered to look the other way. NNBUT, what happened on December 28th made everything before it look like minor league corruption. This was something bigger, something that made me realize I wasn't just witnessing isolated incidents of federal overreach. I was watching something organized, something planned, something that had been running for years right under our noses. It started at 11:52 p.m. I was posted at mile marker 228, just east of Carlisle, running radar on westbound traffic. The night was brutally cold, 19 degrees, clear skies, no fog for once. Traffic was light, mostly long-haul truckers making their cross-country runs, a few cars scattered here and there, normal late-night highway activity. Then I saw them coming. Not one vehicle, not two, a convoy. 7 vehicles traveling together in tight formation, maintaining exact spacing, exact speed. 2 black Chevy Suburbans in front, 3 white cargo vans in the middle, 2 more black Suburbans bringing up the rear, in all doing exactly 68 miles per hour in a 70 zone. Just under the limit. Professional. Disciplined. Not suspicious enough to pull over, but unusual enough to catch my attention. And I radioed dispatch. Dispatch, this is 7 Charlie 39. I've got a 7-vehicle convoy, westbound at mile marker 227. 2 Suburbans, 3 cargo vans, 2 more Suburbans, all traveling in formation, requesting information on registration. And I ran the plates on my computer. All 7 vehicles came back registered to a company called Meridian Logistics LLC out of Memphis, Tennessee. Legitimate business license, DOT numbers checked out, commercial insurance valid. Everything looked clean on paper. NNTOO clean, NNI pulled out behind them, maintaining distance, just observing. The convoy continued west, never breaking formation, never varying speed. At mile marker 220, one of the cargo vans put on its turn signal and moved to the right lane. The entire convoy shifted with it, perfectly synchronized, like a military convoy NN. That's when I noticed the Suburbans. Tinted windows, no company logos, sitting lower on their suspension than stock vehicles. Either heavily reinforced or carrying serious weight. And the way they positioned themselves, always bracketing the cargo vans, always maintaining protective formation. It wasn't commercial transport. It was security and dispatch. Can you run Meridian Logistics LLC through federal databases? Something feels off about this convoy. There was a pause, longer than usual. Then, the dispatcher's voice came back, and I could hear the change in her tone. 7 Charlie 39, Meridian Logistics is flagged in the system. Hold your position and do not initiate contact. Repeat, do not initiate contact, and flagged. That meant federal. DEA, FBI, ATF. One of the alphabet agencies had claimed this company as part of an investigation, which meant I was supposed to ignore whatever they were doing and let them pass. NNBUT. I'd been playing this game too long. I'd seen too many flagged operations that turned out to be something darker. So I followed. Kept my distance, kept my lights off, just tracked them westbound on I-40. At mile marker 215, the convoy took the exit for Highway 13 North. I followed, hanging back about a quarter-mile. Highway 13 was a two-lane rural road that cut through farmland, leading to small towns and eventually up toward Missouri. Not a major trucking route, not a logical path for legitimate commercial transport heading west. Endval. I called it in. Dispatch, convoy has exited onto Highway 13 North. I'm following at distance N7 Charlie 39. You are ordered to break off surveillance and return to your patrol sector. This is a federal matter. Dispatch. I haven't initiated a stop. I'm just observing suspicious vehicles in my jurisdiction. Detective. This is Lieutenant Barnes. My supervisor had picked up the radio. You are to break off immediately and return to patrol. That's a direct order. I looked ahead at those 7 vehicles, moving through the dark like a shadow convoy, carrying God knows what to God knows where, protected by federal flags that made them invisible to local law enforcement. In copy, Lieutenant. Breaking off now. And I slowed down, let them pull away, their taillights disappearing around a curve. Then I turned off my headlights, killed my overhead lights, and continued following at a distance with just my running lights. And I know. Insubordination. Career-ending if anyone found out. But something in my gut told me this was important. This was the thing I'd been looking for. The thread that would unravel the whole corrupt system I'd been documenting in my black notebook for years. An NTHE convoy continued north on Highway 13 for about 15 miles, then turned east onto County Road 442, an even more isolated route cutting through dense forest. I followed with my lights still off, using the moonlight and the distant glow of their taillights to navigate. And about 8 miles down County Road 442, the convoy slowed and turned onto a dirt access road. I could see a gate, chain link with razor wire on top, and a guard shack. The gates swung open as the convoy approached, like they were expected, and all 7 vehicles drove through onto what looked like an old industrial property. And I pulled off the county road about 200 yards back, parking behind a stand of trees, and killed my engine. Through my binoculars, I could see the property. Old warehouse buildings, corrugated metal walls rusted and weathered, loading docks, a few smaller outbuildings. The whole place was surrounded by that chain-link fence with razor wire, with security lights on poles creating pools of illumination. NNTHE convoy, parked in formation near the largest warehouse. Doors opened and men got out. I counted 14 of them, all wearing dark clothing, tactical vests, weapons visible. Not police uniforms, not military uniforms. Private security or something else. NNTHE, rear doors of the cargo vans opened. Even from 200 yards away, through binoculars, I could see what they were unloading. Wooden crates, dozens of them, being carried into the warehouse by teams of 2 men per crate. The size and the way they were carrying them suggested serious weight. Weapons, drugs, cash, equipment, I couldn't tell from this distance. I was reaching for my phone to take photos when I heard it. An engine behind me. Close, too close, and I turned and saw headlights cutting through the darkness, heading straight toward my position. A vehicle had come up County Road 442 without lights, just like I had, and now it was rolling up on my 6. And I started my charger, threw it into gear, but before I could move, the other vehicle pinned me. A black pickup truck, lifted, heavy bumper, blocked my rear. Then another vehicle appeared from the trees on my left, a Suburban, boxing me in. And doors opened, and 4 men stepped out, all armed with AR-15 rifles, all wearing tactical gear. One of them approached my driver's window, weapon pointed at the ground but ready, and I rolled down my window, my right hand moving slowly toward my service weapon. Keep your hands where I can see them, trooper. The man was maybe 40, military bearing, cold eyes. Step out of the vehicle, nice and slow. I'm a state trooper conducting surveillance on suspicious activity. You're interfering with a law enforcement operation. No, Trooper Hawkins. You're violating a direct order from your supervisor and trespassing on federal property. Now step out of the vehicle before this gets worse for you. NNHE knew my name. They'd been tracking me since I left the highway. Now stepped out, hands visible. not reaching for my weapon. One of the other men took my sidearm, my backup piece from my ankle holster, and my radio. Professional. Efficient. Like they'd done this before. NNTHE lead guy pulled out a badge holder. I couldn't see the details in the dark, but I'd seen enough federal badges by now to know what it looked like. This area is part of an ongoing federal operation. You've just compromised months of investigative work by following that convoy. Your dashcam footage, your GPS data, everything from tonight's shift will be confiscated as part of operational security. What operation? What's in those crates? Who are you people? Nah, questions you don't have clearance to ask, trooper. What you're going to do is get back in your vehicle, drive back to your station, and write a report that says you pursued a suspicious convoy, lost visual contact on Highway 13, and returned to patrol. No mention of County Road 442, no mention of this property, no mention of this conversation. And I looked past him at the warehouse in the distance. More men were unloading crates, working under the security lights like ants in a colony. This wasn't a small operation. This was infrastructure. Organized. Funded NIN, and if I refuse, NNTHE federal agents stepped closer. Then tomorrow morning, Arkansas State Police will receive a formal complaint about your conduct tonight. Insubordination, harassment of federal personnel, interference with a federal investigation. You'll be suspended pending investigation. That investigation will find evidence of misconduct, evidence that will be provided by us, and you'll be fired. No pension, no benefits, no recommendation. Your 23 years will mean nothing, nor, he continued, you play ball like you've been playing ball for the past year. You write the report we tell you to write, you take your paycheck and you go home to your wife. Your choice, trooper. I stood there in the cold December night, breath fogging in the freezing air, looking at this man who held my entire career in his hands. Behind him, that warehouse operation continued. Illegal or legal, I couldn't tell, but definitely something big enough to have federal protection, federal resources, federal threats backing it up. NN, I need to know one thing, I said. Are you really DEA, FBI, or is that badge fake? NNTHE agent's expression didn't change. Does it matter? You're going to do what we tell you either way. The only question is whether you do it willingly and keep your career, or unwillingly and lose everything. NNHE handed back my weapons, my radio, my equipment. Drive safe, Trooper Hawkins. It's a dangerous night out here. And I got back in my Charger and drove away, watching in my rearview mirror as those vehicles followed me all the way back to Highway 13, making sure I actually left. At 3:15 a.m., I was back at the station, sitting at my desk, staring at another blank incident report. The station was quiet, just a couple of patrol officers doing paperwork, the night shift winding down, and I wrote what they told me to write. Observed suspicious convoy on I-40, followed to Highway 13, lost visual contact due to vehicles turning onto unmarked roads, returned to patrol sector, no further action taken, and simple, clean. Lies. N and I filed the report and went home. Karen was asleep. I went to my office, opened the safe, and pulled out the black notebook. N December 28, 2023. Then, I wrote what really happened. The 7-vehicle convoy. Meridian Logistics, LLC, County Road 442. The warehouse compound with razor wire fencing. 14 armed men unloading dozens of heavy wooden crates. Being intercepted by federal agents who knew my name before I said it. The threat. The choice. The coercion NNBUT. This time, I wrote something else. Something I'd been avoiding for months. NNI wrote, "This isn't random. The Dodge Challenger in September. The coordinated Tahoe and pickup in October. The minivan with children in November. Now a 7-vehicle convoy in December. All of them federal operations. All of them protected. All of them forcing me to falsify reports. This is organized. This is systematic. This is bigger than drug trafficking or cartel investigations. This is something else entirely. and I don't know what it is, but I know it's wrong. I wrote, "The threats are getting more direct. They knew my name tonight before I identified myself. They knew my route, my patrol schedule, my position. They were tracking me. Which means they'd been tracking me for months. Which means someone in the department is feeding them information about which troopers are on which roads at which times." This when I wrote, "I have to make a choice. Keep documenting these incidents in a notebook that no one will ever read, waiting until my career ends naturally and I can die with a clear conscience that I at least wrote the truth down. Or take this notebook public now, expose everything, and accept that my life as I know it will be destroyed." When I finished writing, the sun was coming up. I could hear Karen moving around upstairs, getting ready for work. Another normal morning in her world, completely unaware that her husband had spent the night documenting evidence of federal crimes or federal operations so classified that local police couldn't know about them. I still wasn't sure which. Ann and I closed the notebook, locked it away, and sat there for a long time, thinking about that warehouse. Those crates, those armed men, that convoy running through Arkansas in the middle of the night, protected by badges and threats in a system that had learned to weaponize the very authority meant to protect people. Somewhere out there, that convoy was delivering its cargo. Somewhere, those crates were being opened. Somewhere, whatever operation I'd stumbled onto was continuing, and I was supposed to pretend I'd never seen it. NNTHE question I kept asking myself was simple. How many other troopers? How many other cops? How many other officers across how many other states were being told to look the other way? How big was this? How deep did it go? And the question I was afraid to answer. What would happen to me if I actually tried to find out? May Abazin, the Vanishing Act, when evidence disappears in broad daylight. Hasterisken. You know what's worse than criminals getting away with crimes? When the system designed to catch them actively helps them escape. When the people wearing badges and carrying guns work harder to cover up the truth than to expose it. When you realize that justice isn't blind, it's been blindfolded and gagged and locked in a basement somewhere. January 19th, 2024. That was the day I stopped believing in coincidences. It was a Friday afternoon, 2:45 p.m. Temperature, a relatively mild 54 degrees for January in Arkansas. I was running radar at mile marker 251 near the Lanoke exit, watching eastbound traffic cruise by in that lazy Friday afternoon way, people heading home early for the weekend, nobody in much of a hurry. That's when I clocked the red Ford Mustang GT doing 92 and a 70. Not insane, but enough. I hit my lights and pulled out, expecting a routine traffic stop. Young driver, probably, speeding because they could, would get a ticket and a lecture and be on their way. NNTHE Mustang didn't run. It actually pulled over immediately, right lane, hazards on, textbook compliance. I approached the driver's window, my hand near my weapon out of habit, but not expecting trouble. NNTHE driver was a white male, maybe 28 years old, clean cut, wearing a polo shirt and khakis, looking like he just left an office job. He had his license and registration ready before I even asked for them. Afternoon, sir. Do you know why I stopped you? Yes, officer. I was speeding. I apologize. I've got a family emergency in Memphis, and I wasn't paying attention to my speed. Cooperative. Nervous. But most people are nervous when they get pulled over. I took his documents back to my charger and ran them through the system. NNTHE license came back clean. Robert Mitchell, 28. Address in Little Rock. No warrants, no prior traffic violations. But when I ran the registration on the Mustang, something flagged. NNTHE vehicle was registered to Robert Mitchell, but there was a notice in the system. Vehicle of interest. If located, contact Special Agent Frank Garrison, DEA Memphis Field Office. And a phone number. Now I sat there for a moment, staring at the screen. Not a warrant, not stolen, just of interest, which meant federal agencies were tracking this car but hadn't taken any action against it. And I should have let him go with a warning. That's what the flag meant. They were watching this guy, didn't want him to know, wanted him to continue whatever he was doing, so they could build a bigger case. NBUT. I'd been playing this game too long. I'd seen too many flags, too many federal protections, too many criminals walking free, while families of victims got nothing but closed case files and empty promises. And I got out of my Charger and walked back to the Mustang. "Mr. Mitchell, I need you to step out of the vehicle, please." "Is there a problem, officer?" "Just step out of the vehicle, sir." NNHE complied, calm and cooperative. Too calm. Most people getting pulled over are anxious, fidgety, asking questions. This guy was like a mannequin, going through motions without any real emotional response. "Mr. Mitchell, do you mind if I search your vehicle?" "Actually, officer, I do mind. I know my rights. Unless you have probable cause, I don't consent to a search." There it was, the shift. From polite compliance to constitutional assertion. He knew the script. He'd been through this before, or been trained for it. "I clocked you at 92 miles per hour, Mr. Mitchell. That's reckless driving, which gives me cause to search for evidence of impairment or criminal activity. With respect, officer, speeding alone doesn't constitute probable cause for a vehicle search. If you want to give me a ticket, I'll sign it and be on my way. Otherwise, I'm within my rights to refuse a search." NNHE was right. Legally, he was right. Speeding alone wasn't enough for a warrantless search unless I could articulate specific suspicion of additional criminal activity. NNBUT, I had that flag in the system. DEA was interested in this vehicle, which meant there was a reason. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to ask you again. What's in your vehicle that you don't want me to see?" "Nothing illegal, officer. I just value my constitutional rights and I'm exercising them. I made a decision." Probably the wrong decision, but I was tired of being told to look the other way. "Nen, stay right there, please." I walked back to my Charger and called for a K9 unit. If a drug dog alerted on the vehicle, that would give me probable cause to search regardless of his consent. And then I also called the number on the flag. It rang 4 times before someone answered and neighed. "Garrison, this is Trooper Mark Hawkins, Arkansas State Police. I've got a traffic stop on a red Ford Mustang Arkansas plates, registered to Robert Mitchell. Your flag came up in the system." There was a pause. "Where are you, Trooper?" "In I-40 eastbound, mile marker 251. "And why did you stop the vehicle?" "In speeding. 92 in a 70 zone." Another pause, longer this time. "Trooper Hawkins, I need you to issue a warning and let that vehicle go. Don't search it. Don't detain the driver beyond the traffic stop. Just let him go. Agent Garrison, with respect, if there's DEA interest in this vehicle, there's a reason. I'd like to know what that reason is before I let him drive away. That's need-to-know information, Trooper, and you don't need to know. Release the driver and vehicle." That's not a request. I've already called for a K9 unit. They'll be here in about 10 minutes. If the dog alerts, I'm going to search the vehicle. Trooper Hawkins, listen to me very carefully. That vehicle and that driver are part of an ongoing federal investigation. If you search that car, if you make any arrest, you will compromise months of investigative work and put lives at risk. Cancel the K9 unit and let him go. Now, Nye looked at Robert Mitchell standing beside his Mustang, hands in his pockets, calm as could be, probably listening to this conversation through whatever wire or phone he had on him. "Nye, what's he carrying, Agent Garrison? Drugs? Money? Weapons? If he's part of your investigation, he's committing crimes under your protection. That's what this is, right? You're letting him run drugs or guns or whatever so you can track him to bigger targets? And Trooper, you're way out of line. End this stop immediately, or I'll have your badge." I'm not bluffing. I hung up on him. Probably career suicide, but I was past caring. NNTHEK9 unit arrived 12 minutes later. Officer David Brooks and his German Shepherd, Rex, one of the best drug dogs in the state. I explained the situation, the flag in the system, the federal agent demanding I release the vehicle. N. Brooks looked at me. "You sure you want to do this, Mark?" Feds get pissed. They can make a lot of trouble. Run the dog, David. Brooks walked Rex around the Mustang. The dog was trained, Professional, checking each panel, each wheel well, each seam of the vehicle. When he got to the trunk, Rex sat down and barked. Alert. Positive hit for narcotics. We've got probable cause, Brooks said. Your call, Mark. Robert Mitchell's calm finally broke. You can't do this. You're making a huge mistake. Open the trunk, Mr. Mitchell. Now, NHE pulled out his keys with shaking hands and popped the trunk. Inside was a large duffel bag, black nylon, heavy duty. I unzipped it and found vacuum-sealed packages of what was obviously methamphetamine. Lots of it. I counted 14 packages, maybe 2 pounds each. Street value easily over $500,000. No, Robert Mitchell. You're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine. You have the right to remain silent. You have no idea what you just did. Mitchell interrupted, his voice cold now, no more polite cooperation. You have no idea who you're messing with. I finished reading him his Miranda rights, cuffed him, and put him in the back of my Charger. Brooks called for a tow truck to impound the Mustang and transport the evidence. While we waited, my phone rang. Captain Richards, my supervisor. Aye, Hawkins. What the hell are you doing? Making a lawful arrest for felony drug trafficking, sir. I just got a call from DEA saying you interfered with a federal investigation after being specifically ordered to stand down. Is that true? I made a traffic stop, sir. K-9 unit alerted to narcotics. I found 28 pounds of methamphetamine in the trunk. This is a legitimate arrest. Hawkins, you are to release that suspect immediately and turn over all evidence to federal custody. That's a direct order from the division commander. Sir, this is a state arrest for state charges. I have a suspect in custody and evidence that needs to be processed through proper channels. I'm not releasing him. Not Trooper Hawkins. Listen to me. If you don't release that suspect in the next 5 minutes, you will be suspended pending termination. This is coming from above my head. Way above my head. Stand down. I looked at Robert Mitchell in my back seat, smirking at me through the security glass like he knew exactly how this would end. Sir, with all due respect, I'm not releasing him. He's in custody for a legitimate crime. If federal agencies want to charge him with additional crimes, they can do so after we process him through the state system. Captain Richards was quiet for a moment. Mark, I've known you for 15 years. You're a good cop. Don't throw away your career over this. Let him go. Nah, can't do that, sir. Then you're suspended, effective immediately. Badge and weapon, Hawkins. You're done. 9. NHE hung up. I sat there in my Charger, looking at 28 pounds of methamphetamine in evidence bags, a drug trafficker in my back seat, and my phone showing a call-ended screen that might as well have been my career-ended screen. Not Brooks came over to my window. What's going on, Mark? Now, I've been suspended. They want me to release him to federal custody. That's insane. We have evidence. We have a solid arrest. We have... Before he could finish, 3 black SUVs pulled up, surrounding my Charger. Men got out. Same tactical vests, same weapons, same cold efficiency I'd seen at the warehouse a few weeks earlier. NNTHE lead agent walked up to my window. Different guy than the convoy night, but same energy, same authority. Nan Trooper Hawkins. I'm Special Agent Frank Garrison, DEA. You've just interfered with a federal investigation for the 2nd time. That suspect in your vehicle is a confidential informant who's been providing intelligence on a major methamphetamine distribution network operating across 5 states. The drugs in that trunk were planted there by us as part of a controlled delivery to identify trafficking routes. By making this arrest, you've just compromised an 18-month investigation and put the lives of multiple undercover agents at risk. Then, why wasn't there any documentation? Why wasn't there any coordination with state police? Why am I learning about this federal operation only after I've arrested your informant? Because operations of this nature are classified, Trooper. You don't have clearance. You're not in the loop. You're a highway patrolman who writes speeding tickets. Stay in your lane. NNTHAT last part stung more than it should have. If he's your informant, show me the paperwork. Show me the federal authorization for this operation. Show me anything that proves this isn't just you protecting a drug dealer. Agent Garrison pulled out a folder from one of the SUVs and handed it through my window. Inside were documents, official letterhead, case numbers, authorization signatures. Everything looked legitimate. Robert Mitchell, confidential informant, authorized to transport controlled substances under federal supervision, immunity agreements signed by a federal prosecutor. It all looked real. It all looked official. It could also all be fake. I'd never seen real federal operation documents before. I had no way to verify any of this. NN, release him, trooper. The evidence goes with us. You write in your report that the suspect was released to federal custody pursuant to an ongoing investigation. Simple as that. NIN. And if I refuse, NIN. Then your suspension becomes permanent. And we investigate whether you've been tampering with evidence, whether you've been accepting bribes to ignore drug trafficking, whether you've been compromised. We can make all of that stick, trooper. We have resources and authority you can't begin to understand, so make the smart choice. Brooks was standing 10 feet away, watching all of this, his hand near his weapon. He looked at me, a silent question. What do you want to do? I thought about my black notebook at home, filled with incidents just like this. Federal agents showing up, taking suspects and evidence, threatening careers, forcing compliance. Over and over and over. And I thought about that warehouse, those crates, that convoy. All of it connected somehow, all of it protected by federal badges and classified operations and threats that sounded official but felt criminal. And I thought about Karen at home, unaware that her husband was about to lose everything because he refused to let a drug dealer go free. And I thought about the 28 pounds of methamphetamine sitting in my evidence bags, enough poison to destroy hundreds of lives, being protected by the same government that was supposed to be fighting drugs. And I unlocked my back door. He's yours. Robert Mitchell stepped out, smirking. Agent Garrison uncuffed him, walked him to one of the SUVs. Another agent collected all the evidence bags, the methamphetamine, the duffel bag, everything. Within 3 minutes, they were gone. All of them. Just like that. And Brooks walked over. Mark, what the hell was that? That was the system, David. That's how it really works. I drove back to the station, walked into Captain Richards' office, and put my badge and my service weapon on his desk. And I'm suspended, sir. I understand. Captain Richards looked tired, older than I'd ever seen him look. Mark, they're giving you 72 hours. After that, if you want to come back, you can. But you have to stop. You have to stop pulling over flagged vehicles, stop questioning federal operations, stop trying to be a hero. Can you do that? I don't know, sir. Can you tell me what's really going on? Why are federal agents running drugs through Arkansas with official protection? Why are we being ordered to ignore felony crimes? Why are suspects and evidence disappearing into federal custody with no accountability? Because that's above our pay grade, Mark. That's how it's always been. We're state police. We handle state crimes. When the feds get involved, we step back. That's the deal. And if the deal is corrupt? If the feds are the criminals? Captain Richards leaned back in his chair. Then we still step back, because we don't have the power to fight them. You want to change the system, run for Congress. You want to keep your job and your pension. Follow orders. Your choice. I left his office, cleaned out my locker, and drove home. It was 6:30 p.m. Karen was making dinner, completely normal Friday evening. You're home early, she said, smiling. Then she saw my face. What happened? I got suspended. 3 days. I'll be fine. NSHE didn't ask why. She'd learned over the years not to ask. But I could see the worry in her eyes. The fear that one day I'd come home and it wouldn't be 3 days, it would be permanent. After dinner, after she went to bed, I went to my office and opened the safe. The black notebook was there, waiting, always waiting. And January 19th, 2024, NNI wrote everything. The traffic stop, Robert Mitchell. The 28 pounds of meth, Agent Garrison. The documents that may or may not have been real, the threats, the suspension. The choice I made to comply rather than fight, NNBUT, then I wrote something new. I'm done documenting. I'm done writing truth that no one will ever read. I'm done being a witness to corruption while pretending to be a cop. Either I take this notebook public and accept the consequences, or I burn it and accept that I'm complicit in everything I've written down. Either way, something has to change. I can't keep living with two versions of reality. I can't keep lying in official reports while telling the truth in a locked notebook. I can't keep wearing a badge that means nothing because the system it represents is rotten from the inside. When I finished writing, I sat there for a long time staring at that notebook. 15 years of entries. 15 years of truth that had never mattered because it had never been spoken out loud, never been brought into the light, and 3 days. I had 3 days to decide what kind of man I was going to be when I went back. NNIF, I went back. NN. The 3-day war. When suspension becomes investigation, and suspension is supposed to be time off. 3 days to cool down, reflect on your choices, come back with a clearer head and a willingness to follow orders. That's the theory, anyway. But when you've been suspended for arresting a drug dealer who turned out to be a federal informant, and when you've spent 15 years documenting corruption in a secret notebook, suspension doesn't feel like time off. It feels like the calm before the storm. In January 20th, 2024, day 1 of my suspension. Saturday morning, in Jan N, I woke up at 6 a.m. out of habit, reached for my uniform before remembering I didn't have a shift. Karen was still asleep. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone, half expecting a call from Captain Richards telling me the suspension was permanent, or from a federal agent telling me to forget everything I'd seen, or from someone, anyone, explaining what the hell was really going on. An NTHE call came at 8:15 a.m. unknown number NN Trooper Hawkins. A woman's voice, professional, unfamiliar. NN, who's asking? N. My name is Jennifer Reeves. I'm an investigative journalist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I'd like to talk to you about your suspension. NNMY stomach dropped. How do you know about my suspension? I have sources within the state police. They tell me you were suspended for arresting a federal informant during a drug trafficking stop. They also tell me this isn't the first time you've had conflicts with federal agencies over suspects being released without charges. I'd like to hear your side of the story. I walked outside onto the back porch, away from the house. I can't comment on an ongoing internal investigation. Is it true that federal agents took custody of 28 pounds of methamphetamine and released the suspect without filing charges? None. Who told you that? None. Multiple sources. Is it true, Trooper Hawkins? I thought about my black notebook upstairs, locked in the safe. 15 years of documentation, hundreds of incidents. All the proof anyone would need that something was systematically wrong with how federal agencies operated in Arkansas. I can't talk to you, Ms. Reeves. Not while I'm under suspension. Then talk to me after your suspension. I'm working on a story about federal overreach in local law enforcement, about how DEA and FBI use local police as pawns while running their own operations with no oversight, no accountability. Your case fits a pattern I've been tracking for 2 years. You're not the only cop this has happened to. NNTHAT got my attention. What do you mean? I've documented over 30 cases in the past 5 years where local law enforcement in Arkansas made legitimate arrests that were then taken over by federal agencies. Suspects released, evidence confiscated, officers threatened or transferred, always drug cases, always involving federal informants or ongoing investigations. But here's the thing, Trooper Hawkins. When I FOIA request the federal case files, they don't exist. These informants, these ongoing investigations. There's no documentation, no case numbers, no federal prosecutions. These people just disappear into the system and come out the other side clean. You're saying the federal operations are fake? No's. I'm saying something is very wrong. and I need someone on the inside to help me prove it. Someone who's seen it firsthand. Someone who's kept records. NNSHE knew. Somehow, she knew about the notebook. NN, I have to go, Ms. Reeves. My number's on your phone now. When you're ready to talk, call me. This story is happening, with or without you, but it'll be stronger with your testimony. Nada SHE hung up. I stood there on my back porch, cold morning air cutting through my t-shirt, thinking about what she'd said. 30 cases. 5 years. A pattern of federal interference with no documentation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. This was real, and it was bigger than Arkansas, and I went back inside. Karen was up making breakfast. Who was that? No number, NSHE, looked at me the way wives look at husbands who are lying poorly. But she didn't push. What are you gonna do today? I don't know. Yard work, maybe. Fix that fence panel in the back. Normal husband things. Normal Saturday plans. Pretending everything was fine while my career hung in the balance, and a journalist was asking me to go on record about federal corruption. But I couldn't do yard work. I couldn't pretend. I went to my office, locked the door, and opened the safe. The black notebook was there, thick with 15 years of entries. I pulled it out and started reading from the beginning. NNTHE first entry was from 2009. A traffic stop where I'd found cocaine in a vehicle, arrested the driver, and then been told by a federal agent to release him because he was a confidential informant. I had written it off as a one-time thing back then. Bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. NNBUT, then it happened again. And again. And the pattern became clear. Always drugs. Always federal informants. Always threats if I didn't comply. And I spent 3 hours reading through every entry, looking for connections, for names that appeared multiple times, for geographical patterns. And I found them. Most of the incidents happened along I-40, between mile markers 200 and 260. A 60-mile stretch of highway that cut through some of the poorest, most rural parts of Arkansas. Perfect territory for drug trafficking. Perfect territory for federal operations. NNBUT, more importantly, I found names. Special Agent Frank Garrison appeared in 7 different entries over the past 5 years. Always DEA. Always the same speech about ongoing investigations and confidential informants. Always the same threats about my career if I didn't comply. There were other names too. Agent Martinez, Agent Thompson, Agent Collins. Different agencies, different cases, but all of them appearing multiple times in my notebook. All of them using the same playbook. DN, this wasn't random federal overreach. This was organized, coordinated, deliberate. NNMY phone rang again. Different number, but I suspected I knew who it was. N Trooper Hawkins. This is Special Agent Frank Garrison. We need to talk. And I'm suspended, Agent Garrison. I'm not on duty. This isn't about your suspension. This is about national security. I'm coming to your house. 20 minutes. Be there. NNHE hung up before I could respond. I looked out my office window, half expecting to see black SUVs already pulling up to my driveway. In Karen knocked on the door. Mark, is everything okay? You've been in there for hours. I'm fine, just doing some paperwork. On a Saturday, during your suspension? I opened the door. Someone's coming to the house. A federal agent. He says he needs to talk to me. And about what? Nah, I don't know. But I need you to do something for me. I handed her the black notebook. Take this. Put it somewhere safe. Not in this house. Your sister's place, maybe. Or a safety deposit box. Somewhere no one can find it without a warrant. NSHE looked at the notebook, then at me. Mark, what is this? What's going on? Insurance. In case something happens to me, if anything goes wrong, if I disappear or get arrested or anything, you give that to Jennifer Reeves. At the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Promise me. You're scaring me. Promise me, Karen. NSHE took the notebook. I promise. But you need to tell me what's happening. After this meeting, I'll explain everything. Just get that notebook out of here." Now, NNSHE left, taking the notebook with her. I watched through the window as she got in her car and drove away. Good. Whatever happened next, at least the evidence was safe. Agent Garrison arrived exactly 20 minutes later, just like he said. But he didn't come alone. 3 SUVs, 6 agents, all armed, all wearing tactical vests, like they were raiding a compound instead of visiting a suspended state trooper. I met them at the front door. "This is a lot of firepower for a conversation, Agent Garrison. Can we come inside? No? Do I have a choice? Everyone has choices, Trooper. You've been making some interesting ones lately. Might I let them in?" They spread out through my house, checking rooms, looking in closets, professional and thorough. Looking for something, Garrison sat down at my kitchen table uninvited. "Where's your wife?" "Running errands." "What do you want?" "I want to know what you told Jennifer Reeves this morning." NNSO, they were monitoring my phone, probably had been for months, and I told her I couldn't comment on an ongoing investigation. That's it. That's smart, because Ms. Reeves is not your friend, Trooper Hawkins. She's a conspiracy theorist who sees federal corruption everywhere. She's written dozens of articles about government overreach, about innocent people being targeted by law enforcement, about how the system is rigged. She's not interested in truth. She's interested in clicks and controversy. Is that why you're here? To warn me about talking to journalists? I'm here because you've become a problem. Multiple times over the past year, you've interfered with federal operations. You've questioned federal authority. You've made arrests you were told not to make. And yesterday, you refused a direct order to release a suspect. That's a pattern of behavior that concerns us. Us? Who's us? DEA? FBI? Or something else? Garrison smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Does it matter? We all work for the same government. We all have the same mission. And that mission sometimes requires local law enforcement to trust us when we say something is classified, something is need to know, something is above your pay grade. And if I don't trust you, no, then you don't get to be a state trooper anymore. You get to be a cautionary tale. The cop who thought he was smarter than the system. The cop who lost everything because he couldn't follow simple orders. One of the other agents came downstairs. "Safe's empty, sir." No notebooks, no files, nothing but personal documents. Garrison's expression didn't change, but I saw the flicker of frustration. They'd come for the notebook. They knew I'd been keeping records. In, where is it? Trooper Hawkins? Been, where's what? Don't play games. We know you've been documenting incidents involving federal agents. We know you have a notebook or a file or something where you keep your version of events. We want it. Know what you're talking about. Your house is wired, Trooper. We heard you tell your wife to hide it. We heard you mention Jennifer Reeves. So let's skip the denials and get to the negotiation. You give us the notebook, you agree to never speak to Reeves or any other journalist, and you come back from suspension on Tuesday like nothing happened. Clean slate. Fresh start. And if I don't have a notebook to give you, then we search your wife's car when she comes back. We search her sister's house. We search every property and vehicle connected to you until we find it. And when we do, we'll also find evidence that you've been falsifying police reports, accepting bribes, interfering with federal investigations. Evidence we'll create if we need to. Evidence that will send you to federal prison for 10 years. This was it. The moment I'd been avoiding for 15 years. The moment when documenting the truth became a crime punishable by prison. Ned, you can't do that. You're federal agents, not criminals. Garrison leaned forward. Trooper Hawkins, we are the government. We can do whatever is necessary to protect national security. And right now, your notebook is a national security threat because it contains information about classified operations. So either you turn it over voluntarily or we take it by force. Your choice. I thought about that notebook, 15 years of evidence in Karen's hands, heading to wherever she decided to hide it. I thought about Jennifer Reeves and her investigation, 30 cases of federal interference, all looking for someone to connect the dots. And then, I thought about Robert Mitchell driving away yesterday with 28 pounds of meth, protected by federal badges. I thought about that convoy at the warehouse, those crates being unloaded in the middle of the night. And I thought about what kind of man looks the other way when the system is broken. Nen, I'm not giving you anything. If you want to search my property, get a warrant. If you want to charge me with crimes, arrest me. But I'm not helping you cover up whatever it is you're doing. E. Garrison stood up. You're making a mistake, trooper. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. NNHE signaled to his agents and they left, all of them, filing out of my house like a military unit. No threats, no warnings, just cold silence. After they left, I locked all the doors and windows and sat in my living room, waiting for Karen to come home, waiting for whatever came next. NNSHE returned 2 hours later without the notebook. It's safe, was all she said. NNTHAT night, I couldn't sleep. I kept expecting another knock on the door, another visit from federal agents, maybe with a warrant this time, maybe with handcuffs. NNBUT, the knock didn't come. Instead, at 3:30 a.m., my phone lit up with a news alert. NN breaking. Arkansas State Trooper under investigation for evidence tampering and bribery. Exclusive story by Channel 7 News. Then opened the article. It was all there, perfectly fabricated. Anonymous sources claiming I'd been taking bribes from drug traffickers to ignore their activities. Evidence of suspicious deposits in my bank account, deposits I'd never made. Testimony from confidential informants claiming I'd helped them avoid arrest in exchange for cash. All lies. All manufactured. All designed to destroy my credibility before I could tell anyone the truth. NNBY Sunrise. It was on every news station. Corrupt state trooper suspended pending criminal investigation. My picture was everywhere. My name was trending on social media, and the comment sections were filled with people calling for my arrest, my firing, my imprisonment. Nekurin was crying. Mark, what is this? What's happening? They're burning me, making sure no one will believe anything I say about them. Classic character assassination, but it's all lies. We can prove it's lies. Nay, can we? They're federal agents, Karen. They can create bank records, witness statements, evidence reports. They can make any lie look like truth. NNMY phone rang. Jennifer Reeves, named Trooper Hawkins. I just saw the news. I'm assuming it's fabricated? Every word of it. Then now would be a good time for you to go on record with your side of the story. I can have a camera crew at your house in 30 minutes. Tell the truth before their lies become the official narrative. I looked at Karen, at my house, at my life that was crumbling around me. I thought about that notebook, hidden somewhere safe, filled with 15 years of truth that might mean nothing if I was branded a corrupt cop before I could share it. Now 1 hour, Ms. Reeves. And bring a lawyer. I'm going to need one. NNSHE arrived with a camera crew, a lawyer, and a determination that reminded me why journalists matter. We sat in my living room and I told her everything. The convoy, the warehouse, Robert Mitchell, and the 28 pounds of meth. The pattern of federal interference. The threats. The fabricated evidence.NNSHE recorded all of it. And when I was done, she looked at me and said, I'm going to need that notebook you've been keeping. The documentation. Without it, this is just your word against theirs. My wife has it, in a safe place. Good. Keep it there until we're ready to publish. I need a few days to verify what you've told me, to build the story properly. Can you hold on that long? Nin. Do I have a choice? Nin. We always have choices, Trooper Hawkins. The question is whether we're brave enough to make the hard ones. NNSHE left with her footage, and I was alone again with Karen, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting to see if telling the truth would save my career or end everything I'd worked for. And day 3 of my suspension was Monday. I was supposed to meet with Captain Richards on Tuesday to learn my fate, to find out if I still had a job. NNBUT Monday morning, the FBI showed up with an arrest warrant. Federal charges: obstruction of justice, interference with a federal investigation, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, and all fabricated. All designed to silence me before Jennifer Reeves' story could run. They put me in handcuffs in my own driveway, in front of my neighbors, in front of Karen, who was screaming that it wasn't true, that I was innocent. "You have the right to remain silent." I'd read those words to hundreds of criminals over 23 years. Never thought I'd hear them read to me. 10 days they put me in the back of their vehicle. I looked up at my house, at Karen crying on the front porch, at my life disappearing into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. NNBUT, I'd made my choice. I'd told the truth. I'd gone on record. And somewhere, that black notebook was safe, waiting to prove that everything I'd said was real. NNTHE question was whether anyone would believe it. And the reckoning when the truth becomes a weapon. Asterisk and federal holding cells are designed to break you. Not with violence or torture, but with silence and isolation. White walls, fluorescent lights that never turn off, a steel toilet in the corner, a thin mattress on a concrete slab. No windows, no clock, no way to tell if it's day or night. Just you and your thoughts, and the slow realization that everything you've worked for your entire life has been taken away in handcuffs. They held me for 72 hours before my arraignment. 3 days in that white box with nothing but a federal public defender who looked like he'd just graduated law school, telling me to take a plea deal. "Nah, Mr. Hawkins, the evidence against you is substantial. Bank records showing deposits totaling $47,000 over the past 2 years. Testimony from 3 confidential informants claiming you accepted bribes to ignore drug trafficking. Surveillance footage of you meeting with known criminals. If this goes to trial, you're looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison." I sat across from him in the attorney meeting room, wearing an orange jumpsuit that was 2 sizes too small, my hands cuffed to a chain around my waist. "It's all fabricated. Every piece of evidence. The deposits are fake, the informants are lying, and I've never met with any criminals except the ones I've arrested." NNTHE public defender, his name was Miller, looked at me with the exhausted patience of someone who'd heard this speech 100 times. "Mr. Hawkins, every defendant claims the evidence is fabricated. The jury won't believe you without proof. Do you have proof?" "And I have 15 years of documentation. A notebook where I recorded every incident of federal interference, every suspect who was released without charges, every time I was threatened or coerced. It's all in there. Where is this notebook? Then, my wife has it, in a safe location. Then we need to get it. That's your defense. Without it, you're just another cop claiming he's been framed. If I reveal where it is, federal agents will seize it as evidence and it'll disappear into their system. I've seen it happen. Evidence that contradicts their narrative gets lost, destroyed, or classified. I'm not handing it over until I can make it public." Miller rubbed his temples. "Mr. Hawkins, I understand your paranoia, but it's not paranoia if they're actually out to get you." NHE sighed. "The arraignment is in 4 hours. The prosecution is offering a deal. You plead guilty to 1 count of obstruction, you get 5 years with possibility of parole in 3. You reject the deal and go to trial. You're looking at a decade minimum if they prove even half of what they're claiming. I'm not pleading guilty to crimes I didn't commit. Then you better hope your wife can produce that notebook and that it's as compelling as you think it is. Because right now, you're going to prison. The only question is for how long. NNTHE arraignment was a circus. Federal courthouse in Little Rock, packed with media, cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions as U.S. Marshals walked me in wearing chains like I was some kind of dangerous criminal. The headlines were already written. Corrupt state trooper faces federal charges. Arkansas officer accused of taking bribes from drug cartels. The badge and the betrayal inside a police corruption scandal. Karen was in the courtroom, front row, looking like she hadn't slept in 3 days. My lawyer was nowhere near her, probably told to keep distance for legal reasons. And in the back row, I saw someone I recognized. Jennifer Reeves, the journalist, with a notebook and a look of determination that gave me the first hope I'd felt since being arrested. NNTHE prosecutor was a woman named Sarah Brennan, mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper demeanor. She stood before the judge and laid out the case like she was reading a grocery list. Your Honor, the defendant, Mark Hawkins, is charged with conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, obstruction of justice, and accepting bribes from criminal organizations. The evidence includes financial records, witness testimony, and surveillance footage. The United States requests that bail be denied due to flight risk and the serious nature of the charges. NNMY public defender stood up. Your Honor, Mr. Hawkins has served as a state trooper for 23 years with an exemplary record. He has no criminal history, strong ties to the community, and poses no flight risk. We request reasonable bail. NNTHE judge, an older man named Patterson, who looked like he'd been on the bench since the Cold War, flipped through the case file. Mr. Hawkins, you're accused of some very serious crimes. What do you have to say? I stood up, chains rattling. Your Honor, I'm innocent. The charges against me are fabricated by federal agencies attempting to silence my testimony about corruption within their own operations. I request that this court order the preservation of evidence, specifically a personal journal documenting my interactions with federal agents over the past 15 years. Without that protection, I believe the evidence will be destroyed. Prosecutor Brennan jumped in. Your Honor, there's no evidence this alleged journal even exists. This is a delay tactic designed to, it exists. A voice called from the back of the courtroom. Jennifer Reeves stood up. Your Honor, I'm a journalist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I've interviewed Mr. Hawkins, and I've seen references to his documentation. I'm currently investigating a pattern of federal interference in state law enforcement across Arkansas. Mr. Hawkins, case fits that pattern. Judge Patterson looked annoyed. Ms. Reeves, you're not a party to this case. Sit down, or I'll have you removed. Your Honor, freedom of the press. Sit down. NSHE sat, but the damage was done. The judge knew there was a journalist covering this, which meant whatever happened here would be scrutinized publicly. My man Patterson set bail at $500,000, far more than Karen and I could afford. I went back to federal holding, back to that white cell, back to waiting. NNBUT on day 5, something changed. My public defender came back, and this time he was excited. Your wife posted bail. We don't have $500,000. Someone posted it for you. Anonymous bond, paid in cash through an attorney. You're being released pending trial. NNTWO hours later. I walked out of federal custody wearing the same clothes I'd been arrested in, into the bright afternoon sun that hurt my eyes after days under fluorescent lights. Karen was waiting by the car, and when she saw me, she started crying. Nen, Mark, I was so scared. I thought they were going to keep you forever. Nen, who posted bail? We don't know anyone with that kind of money. I don't know. The lawyer just called this morning and said it was taken care of. He said someone wanted to help, but wanted to remain anonymous. NWE drove home in silence. When we pulled into our driveway, there was a car I didn't recognize parked on the street. A woman got out as we arrived. Jennifer Reeves, Trooper Hawkins, can we talk? I looked at Karen, who nodded. We went inside and sat in the same living room, where I'd first told Jennifer the truth about the federal operations. "And I posted your bail," Jennifer said without preamble. "Well, technically the newspaper did. We have a fund for protecting sources who face legal retaliation. You qualify. Why would you do that? Because your story checks out. I've spent the past 5 days investigating everything you told me. The convoy you saw? I found shipping records for Meridian Logistics LLC. On paper, they're a transportation company, but their registered agent is a shell corporation that traces back to a classified federal contract. The warehouse you saw? Property records show it's owned by another shell company with federal ties. And Robert Mitchell, the informant you arrested. His federal cooperation agreement doesn't exist in any public database. I submitted FOIA requests. Nothing. No case file, no documentation, no record that he was ever working with DEA. Nye leaned forward. You're saying it's all fake? Nen, I'm saying something much bigger than drug investigations is happening. These federal operations you've been documenting, they're not following standard procedures. There's no oversight, no documentation, no public accountability. It's like a shadow government operating inside the government. So what do? Jennifer pulled out a folder. We publish. I've written the story. 37 pages documenting everything I've found, including your testimony, the case files I was able to access, and interviews with 6 other law enforcement officers across Arkansas who've had similar experiences with federal agents taking over their cases. But here's the problem. Without your notebook, without that 15 years of documentation, it's all circumstantial. It's a compelling story, but it's not proof. We need that notebook. And Karen spoke up. It's in a safety deposit box at First National Bank in Conway. Box 247. Key is hidden at my sister's house. Jennifer looked at me. If we publish with the notebook as evidence, federal agencies will come after it. They'll claim it's classified material, national security. They'll get a court order to seize it. We need to make copies, distribute them, get them to multiple journalists and civil rights organizations before we go public. Can you get it? Nien, I'm out on bail for federal charges. If they're monitoring me, which they probably are, the moment I go to that bank, they'll know where it is. Then we create a distraction. Make them look somewhere else while we retrieve it. Over the next 3 days, we planned. Karen would go to the bank, retrieve the notebook, and make copies at multiple locations. I would stay home, visible, making it obvious I wasn't trying to hide anything. Jennifer would coordinate with other journalists, getting them ready to publish simultaneously once we had the documentation secured. On day 3, February 2nd, Karen left at 9 a.m. for Conway. I watched from the window as a black SUV pulled out from down the street and followed her. They were tracking her, just like I'd predicted. NBUT. What they didn't know was that Karen's sister had already retrieved the notebook 2 days earlier and made copies. The safety deposit box was empty. The trip to Conway was a decoy. At 2 p.m., Jennifer Reeves' article went live online. Shadow Operations: How Federal Agencies Run Unsupervised Programs Through Local Police. The headline was everywhere within minutes. The article detailed everything: my testimony, the other officers, stories, the shell corporations, the classified contracts, the missing documentation bot N. And attached to the article were scanned pages from my black notebook. 15 years of entries, dates, names, case numbers, proof that everything I'd said was true. NNTHE response was immediate. Within an hour, my phone was ringing nonstop. Other journalists wanting interviews, lawyers offering to represent me, civil rights organizations demanding investigations, and federal agencies going into damage control mode. NNBY 4 p.m., the FBI had issued a statement claiming the article contained classified information harmful to national security and demanding it be taken down. But it was too late. The story had been picked up by national outlets. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, everyone was covering it. And the notebook had been distributed to a dozen different organizations, making it impossible to suppress. And at 6 p.m., my federal public defender called. Mr. Hawkins, the prosecution wants to meet. They're willing to discuss dropping all charges. No, in exchange for what? No, I don't know. They wouldn't say over the phone. But this is good news. It means they're worried. NNTHE meeting was set for the next morning at the federal courthouse. But this time, I wasn't going in handcuffs. I was going as a free man with a team of private attorneys provided by civil rights organizations who'd seen the story and wanted to help. NNWE sat across from prosecutor Sarah Brennan in a conference room that looked like it cost more to furnish than my annual salary. She looked tired, frustrated, like she'd been on the phone with her superiors for hours. Mr. Hawkins, the United States is prepared to dismiss all charges against you pending your cooperation with an ongoing internal investigation. NNMY lead attorney, a woman named Rebecca Torres from the ACLU, leaned forward. What kind of cooperation? We need Mr. Hawkins to testify about his knowledge of certain federal operations. We need access to his complete documentation. And we need assurance that he won't make any further public statements about classified matters. So you want him to help you investigate yourselves while agreeing to silence about what he's already revealed. That's not cooperation. That's a cover-up. Brennan's jaw tightened. Ms. Torres, your client interfered with federal investigations. He compromised operational security. He put agents, lives at risk. We're offering to let him walk away from 15 years in prison. I'd suggest you take it seriously. My client documented federal misconduct. He protected evidence of corruption. He spoke to the press about matters of public interest. That's called whistleblowing, not obstruction. And unless you can prove those federal operations were legitimate and properly documented, which you can't because Jennifer Reeves already FOIA'd the case files and they don't exist, you're prosecuting a man for exposing crimes committed by your own agencies. NNTHE room went silent. Brennan looked at her notes, probably weighing her options, probably realizing that taking this to trial would mean discovery, would mean more documentation, would mean more public scrutiny of operations that couldn't survive daylight. All charges will be dismissed with prejudice, she finally said. Mr. Hawkins will not face any federal prosecution related to these matters. In exchange, he agrees not to reveal any information that could identify active undercover agents or compromise ongoing operations that are properly documented and authorized. And his job? I asked. I was suspended by Arkansas State Police on federal recommendation. I want that reversed. That's between you and your employer. We'll send a letter stating that the federal investigation found no evidence of misconduct on your part. What they do with that is up to them. NNWE took the deal. What choice did we have? The charges were dropped, I was free, and the story was out there. The truth was public, preserved in dozens of copies of my black notebook, impossible to suppress now. NNBUT, the story doesn't end there. Because 2 weeks later, Captain Richards called me into his office. Hawkins, you're being reinstated. Full back pay for your suspension, no disciplinary action on your record. The State Police Commission reviewed your case and determined that you acted appropriately given the information available to you at the time. And I sat down, not quite believing what I was hearing. Just like that, after all the media coverage, after the federal charges, I'd just come back like nothing happened? Richards looked uncomfortable. The truth is, Mark, you did what a lot of us wish we had the guts to do. You questioned authority when authority was wrong. You documented the truth when everyone else was writing lies. And you paid a price for it. The department owes you an apology. I owe you an apology. We should have backed you up a long time ago. What about all the other cases? All the suspects who were released? All the evidence that disappeared? All the federal operations that are still running? There's an investigation now. Congressional Oversight Committee is looking into it. DOJ Inspector General is reviewing federal agency operations in Arkansas. It's going to take years to sort out, but it's happening. Because you spoke up, and I went back to work the next week. Same charger, same stretch of I-40, same patrol sector. But everything felt different. Other troopers looked at me differently, some with respect, some with resentment. The feds were still out there, still running operations, but now they knew someone was watching, someone was documenting, someone was willing to tell the truth. And me? I still keep a notebook. Not the same one, that's in the National Archives now, preserved as evidence, but a new one. Black leather just like the old one, locked in my safe at home. Because the truth is, nothing really changed. Federal agencies still run operations through Arkansas. Suspects still get released without charges. Evidence still disappears. The only difference is, now there's a record, now there's oversight, now there's consequences if they get caught. It's not perfect. It's not justice. But it's progress. And sometimes, that's all you can ask for. NN. 3 months after my reinstatement, I was running radar at mile marker 216, same spot where I'd clocked that Dodge Challenger back in September. And I saw another convoy. Different vehicles this time, but same formation, same coordination, same federal protection. NN, I could have pulled them over. Could have started the whole cycle again. Could have made it my mission to expose every single operation. NNBUT, I didn't. I watched them pass, made a note in my new notebook with the date, time, vehicle descriptions, and I let them go. NNNOT, because I was afraid. Not because I'd been silenced, but because I'd learned something over the past 6 months. You can't fight every battle. You can't right every wrong. Sometimes the best you can do is document the truth and hope that someday, when the time is right, that truth matters. Karen asked me that night why I let the convoy go. We were sitting in the kitchen, eating dinner like a normal couple, like the past 6 months hadn't almost destroyed our lives. Nay, because I'm tired, I told her honestly. I'm tired of fighting a system that's bigger than me. I'm tired of sacrificing everything to expose corruption that gets replaced by new corruption the next day. I'm tired of being the only one who seems to care. But you do care. That's why you kept the notebook all those years. That's why you went on record. That's why you went to federal prison rather than stay silent. I know, and I'll keep caring. I'll keep documenting. But I'm also going to try to have a life. Try to be a husband. Try to sleep at night. Try to find some peace with the fact that the world is imperfect, and I can't fix it all by myself. NNSHE reached across the table and took my hand. You did more than most people ever do, Mark. You told the truth when it cost you everything. That matters. Don't forget that it matters. NNTWO years later, the congressional investigation concluded. 14 federal agents were disciplined. 3 operations were shut down. Multiple policy changes were implemented to increase oversight and documentation requirements. It wasn't enough. It never is. But it was something NNTHE investigation revealed details that even I hadn't fully understood. That warehouse I'd stumbled onto during the convoy pursuit? It was part of a joint task force operation that had been running for 8 years without proper congressional authorization. The crates I'd seen being unloaded weren't drugs or weapons. They were surveillance equipment being distributed to undocumented monitoring stations across 6 states. The entire operation was designed to track domestic targets without warrants, without oversight, without the constitutional protections that are supposed to prevent government overreach. When that came out, the media firestorm made my case look like a footnote. Senators demanded hearings, civil liberties organizations filed lawsuits, and quietly, behind closed doors, careers ended, and budgets were cut, and programs were shut down. But here's what they didn't shut down: the mindset. The belief system that says national security justifies any action, that the ends justify the means, that people like me who ask questions are obstacles to be removed, rather than safeguards to be respected. I see it in the eyes of new federal agents who pull me over on traffic stops now, checking my credentials like they're looking for an excuse to arrest me again. I see it in the bureaucratic delays when I request information on cases that involve federal cooperation. I see it in the way certain reports I file seem to disappear into administrative black holes while others get processed immediately. NNTHE system doesn't change because you expose one operation. It adapts, it learns, it gets better at hiding. .ile but so do I. .ile ni mo y. New black notebook is more detailed than the old one. I've learned from my mistakes. Now I document everything with timestamps, photographs when possible, audio recordings when legal. I back everything up to encrypted cloud servers with deadman switches that automatically release the information if I go more than 30 days without checking in. I've built a network of other officers across multiple states who are doing the same thing, sharing information, corroborating each other's observations. Listen, NWE call it the Watchers. Not official, not organized. Just cops who've seen enough to know that someone needs to be paying attention to who's watching the Watchers. Jennifer Reeves still calls me every few months. She's working on a book about the case, about federal overreach, about what happens when security agencies operate without accountability. She keeps asking if I have any regrets about going public. NNTHE honest answer is yes. I regret that my wife had to live through federal agents ransacking our home. I regret that my name will forever be associated with corruption charges, even though they were dropped. I regret that some people in law enforcement see me as a traitor, while others see me as naive for thinking the system could be fixed. NNBUT. I don't regret telling the truth. I don't regret keeping that notebook. I don't regret refusing to let criminals walk free just because they had federal protection. And my black notebook, the original one, the one with 15 years of truth in it, is now part of the permanent record at the Library of Congress. Anyone can read it. Researchers, journalists, citizens who want to know what really happens when the badge means less than the secrets it's protecting, and I'm still a state trooper. Still patrol I-40. Still see things that make me question the system. Still write them down in my new notebook. Still tell the truth even when the truth is unwelcome. Last week, I pulled over a vehicle for speeding. Routine traffic stop, or so I thought. When I ran the plates, another federal flag came up. Different agency this time, different operation, but same pattern. I sat in my Charger, looking at that flag on my computer screen, thinking about everything that had happened over the past 2 years. The arrests, the trials, the media coverage, the investigations. All of it triggered by my decision to question a flag just like this one. And then I could have let the vehicle go with a warning, could have avoided the whole mess, could have stayed in my lane, as Agent Garrison had put it. NNBUT. Here's what I've learned. Staying in your lane only works if the lane you're in is going in the right direction. And when the entire highway system is designed to protect corruption, sometimes you have to drive off-road. NNI called it in. Requested a K-9 unit. Prepared to do my job the way I was trained to do it, regardless of what federal agencies thought about it. Because at the end of the day, that's all we have. The truth. And the courage to speak it. And the willingness to pay the price for doing what's right instead of what's easy. NNMY name is Mark Hawkins. I'm 47 years old now. I've been an Arkansas State Trooper for 24 years. And I'm still carrying 2 versions of the truth. The one I get paid to write and the one I write for myself. NNTHE difference is, now the world knows both versions exist. Now there's accountability. Now there's consequences. And that, I think, is progress.NNNOT perfect. Not complete, but progress, and progress is worth fighting for.